It's Blue Monday. It's Dave and Leslie here for this week's show. And as we approach about 3 months worth of time without Everton kicking a ball anymore, that's why we're both sitting here with smiles on our faces, given the way things have gone lately, you know. But all joking aside about that, we don't play, I think, Les, until what, 3 weeks' time, is it? When
Yeah,
we go
30th of March, Bournemouth away.
Bournemouth away and then Newcastle away. So, you know, when we come back after this lovely break, two easy games to come up, not. But first, we're going to begin by talking about what happened at Old Trafford here now. I know most of you have listened to our post-match that me and Matt did afterwards. We covered a range of subjects on it there, Les. I think you've already listened, haven't you, to the different bits and pieces we've gone on about here. And but one of the things I want to start you with is this thing that I put it on Twitter as well, and there's a lot of mixed replies to it, talking about Dyche himself. And I think it's a topic that we sort of has been underlying talk that we've had for several weeks now, in terms of what he's doing with this side. What can he do? More importantly, and that was the general reply that I had when I was saying, you know, how much is his responsibility about what's going on at the club? And again, it's something that we extensively covered in the post-match, but we don't want to sort of dig a little bit deeper with him. Is you look at the bench we've had, and the players that we brought in. Look, we know we could go down lines of why we've ended up signing these players that we've got, how much we ended up paying for the likes of Beto, or when it's a fiver an hour, whatever it is, we end up getting them for 30 million quid eventually. Look, it says a lot about the club this year when we're not actually talking about who ended up choosing him to sign him. Do you know what I mean? We're not talking about directors of football and whatnot. But in regards to Dyche himself, you know, it's a chicken and egg sort of thing, isn't it? Where you've got the squad like that, not the best. So is that the worst, or is it Dyche? That sort of feeling seems to have not been too far from our discussions in recent months since this horrendous run we've had since we won a game back on 16th of December. Looking at that game post-match against Man United, though, I actually did have some sympathy for him, because we created chances, 20 odd shots we had on goal. Let's face it, none of them went on target. But it does show you that Everton looked okay. They looked competent at certain points of this game. And look, I'm not going to go as far as saying it's the kind of thing that'll kick you on to thinking that Everton are going to come in the right direction. Because how many times have we done that this year where we've looked all right, but then the following week it just completely fell apart and you're looking like a team that's never played before?
Yeah.
Finding a level of consistency, I think, must wreck his head. But I guess the question to start by asking you is, what if you were him, what would you be changing immediately from what you've seen recently in how we've played, what system he's put out there, and more importantly, what players he's actually chose?
Yeah, tough one, that, isn't it? That's why he gets paid the big money and we don't.
Well,
I think looking at it for me, you know, I think, yeah, we've, you know, I think Matt said across the two games, had like 40 odd shots at goal. However, I think there was about 8 on target or something, wasn't there, on at the weekend? Now, their keeper's not a great keeper by any stretch of the imagination. So you'd like to think if you get 8 shots on target, at least one of them's going to go in. But then maybe that just shows like how bad the efforts were. You know, they're either right at him or, you know, they're just easy saves for him. I think the thing that's frustrating me, and I've just done Old New Borrowed Blue with Pete, which will be out on Thursday, to plug that one.
We will do it tonight when I'm putting it together.
We were talking about Dwight McNeil, obviously, because it's Pete. And he was sort of saying he's not being helped by Mykolenko down the left, who's very loath to sort of overlap. Now, that happens on both sides of the pitch. And when Mykolenko's got the ball, McNeil is quite loath to overlap. I've noticed recently as well. I saw something on Twitter saying about sort of Everton's sort of average positions on the pitch. I don't want to get too bogged down in stats like that, but it was basically sort of a heat map for the whole team. And it was all in the middle of the park. And we're not giving the team any width. So the first thing I'd sort out with that team is to tell the wingers to get to the byline and get the crosses in. Did you see Tottenham's first goal against Villa?
Yeah.
He's got it out wide, whipped it across the box, Maddison finishes. Now, as a striker or anyone playing forward in the box, you want crosses coming in from the side. It's harder from the keeper. You get a good connection on it, get it goalwards. he's going to have to make a good save or it's going to fly in, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's how it's like the classic Everton goal, isn't it? Get it down to the byline, cross it in, header. The last time we did it was against West Ham with Garner, and Beto netted it. So it's like that's the first thing I'd change. I would be saying to the fullbacks, get bombing down the line to overlap and get the crosses in. And I'd be saying to the wingers, when the fullbacks got the ball, give them that option down the line. Because that we're not doing that, and it's making it a lot harder to score goals. It's not a complicated game, particularly the way Everton play. We're not playing like lots of intricate little triangles up and down the pitch and really quick passing, one touch passing and moving. It's quite basic what we're doing. So that's a basic way to try and score. And as I said, for me, it's like that is a classic Everton goal. We start doing that in games, it will get people on the feet more because you can see, that getting crosses in from the byline creates good chances generally. And when you've got someone like McNeil who can hit a great crossing with his left, probably not got the same on the other side with Harrison, because he can't do anything with his right. But then that's where you switch the players around and stuff, isn't it? And I'll be looking at that. I think I said maybe it might have been last week. Feels like we've been going on about this forever, doesn't it? But I think I might have said last week we probably need a right-footed winger on the right wing at some point to just change things up. So I think that's a sort of that's an easy fix for me. That's what I'd do, I reckon, and it just baffles me as to why we're not doing that.
Well, that's why it's been putting an emphasis for me on Dyche himself here, as much as the players. Look, I know the sort of go-to shout from many people, if you don't want to criticise a manager, is he can't do anything on the pitch.
Yeah.
But he can instruct what should be happening on the pitch, and I don't see that from him. I see something like you said that is simplicity in itself. Something that if you go back several years with Dyche, you'd think that is tailor-made for him to keep it as basic as he possibly can with a squad that's certainly not great. That epitomised what he was like at Burnley and the success in inverted commas he had, keeping Burnley in the Premier League for so many years, which he did. Where's that? And we haven't got the. It's so ironic to me because we haven't got the players that can do anything different to that. In any sort of success. I know. Look, at various times, you're going to hit lucky at some point, and we have now and again where we've scored an effective goal. You thought, wow, that looks really good. We've played well there. We've put the ball, but then you refer to that one that Beto scores. That should be front and centre, bread and butter for Everton to try and score goals.
Yeah.
Cross a ball in from wherever you want to be, cross it in deep. You've got somebody who's crap when the ball's on the floor, but he's sound to head at it. That's a go-to Everton goal. Yeah. It's been our tradition when we've been successful, which again is that word ironic, really, because I don't understand and I can't get my mind through what he's actually asking these lads to do in training every week now. Because firstly, he's not changing the 11, maybe sort of toss-up between Calvert-Lewin and Beto up front, and then, you're looking maybe at just a guy if he's fit, and maybe Gomez comes into that in that equation right now. But I think where I have sympathy with him is, if we're going into games like that, I can understand if he tries to mix things up when you're playing such a predictable style of play. Now, if you're Man United there, if you had a look at us all week long, you're going to look at it and think, where are these going to score a goal? Well, it's going to be from trying to cross a ball to a lad who's 6'5". I think that is the first thing any of us as football managers are being able to go, that's where Everton are trying to score a goal. And that's fine. But, if you do it effectively, that should still be a massive threat for them. Yeah. It's not like saying, if you could sit here watching a game of footy and say, oh, you look at how they're playing, it's blatantly obvious how they're trying to score a goal. Doesn't mean you can stop it. It doesn't make it any more easier to stop it.
No.
It's not you got Man United, they're going to put like all 10 men behind the ball and keep everybody in and around better. That's not going to happen. So there's always an opportunity to do those sort of things, and that's what's so in the form we've had. And that against United, I know you didn't get a chance to see it, Les, but we actually played well for a large portion of that game there. I think there was a sense of naivety how you expect to get when you go to Old Trafford, and I think Everton quite quickly understood that this wasn't a United of the United of old. It was nothing like that. Their fans are really on edge because they've got a manager who I think a high portion of them wouldn't mind him going and changing things up. And the two penalties. Did you see the two penalties in the end? Yeah.
So full disclosure here, I've not seen the game because I was too busy watching my own lads get walloped 7-0. That's another story. Same thing, we just can't score. We just don't do anything in attack. Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, I've seen the penalties, and it's like, you go to Old Trafford, regardless of how good or bad United are, you can't be giving them penalties. The irony is we get a penalty one week, we can't score it. They get two penalties the next week, two different penalty takers scored both. So you can't do that. You can't do that with any team. It's just giving them the game on a plate, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, I think a lot of what Dyche will be looking at, or at least I hope he is, it's a percentage game for us. Do if we're not good at anything specifically, try and keep it away from you as much as you possibly can. And you look at those goals conceded there. The narrative that's gone along with Tarkowski, that he's going to be, if we stay up, he's going to be a big part of what people say. That's the reason we've stayed up. I'm not saying I'm completely doubting that, but he's been part of, as much as anybody else, part of why we concede some goals.
I mean, that was a soft penalty, wasn't it?
Oh, exactly. That's why it needs to be admitted. There needs to be an admission from that. Doesn't happen unless he throws his foot in. Really, really amateur-wise. You just watch your lads get beat 7-0 there. I bet you went too far away from a football pitch where somebody you want to defend for your side just floors someone and gives away an obvious penalty.
Yeah,
that's exactly what.
Well, it's like, so one issue I've got with I won't go on about this too much, but one issue I've got is a lot of them will do this thing where they just dangle the leg like it's a tackle, like that's enough. And it drives me mad. I'm trying to say, if you're making a tackle, you've got to be committed to it and don't just stick your leg out. Now that sort of goes both ways, because if you do that in the box and the striker trips over it, I know contact isn't necessarily a penalty, and it shouldn't be. But when you sort of dangle your leg like that and the striker goes to go and he falls over it, it's always going to get given as a penalty. It probably is a penalty. There wasn't much force. But as a striker moves off, you probably don't need much to trip him in that instance. And it was stupid. It was just silly and lazy defending.
Well, it's the context of it as well that makes me just as frustrated as I am with what you've said. You know the way this game works now. You know it for many, many years now.
Yeah.
That even before VAR, if a player goes down and there's any sort of contact, you are winning a penalty. Nowadays, it's 100% the winning a penalty if there's any sort of contact. Now, a lot of people, I think many will have had a chance to see it now, where Doku sort of snaps that McAllister in the head there, and Liverpool don't get a penalty when they really should have.
I don't think that was.
Oh, come on. I mean,
honestly, I don't. I think he jumped up, he got the ball and pulled his foot away.
I know you're going to say that he touches the ball, but he's put his foot in his head, and that.
And
anyway,
it's in there on his chest anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to start arguing about them not getting penalties and feeling sorry for them. But in reference to what we were talking about with ours there, I think as well. I mean, Godfrey pretty much does the exact same you've got.
That was just brain dead. He was running across the box.
Well, that's it. What I don't get, the Godfrey one's different to explain, but what I don't get about Tarkowski's one is where Garnacho is obviously trying to get to the byline. That he wasn't, it's either get to the byline or cut inside.
Yeah.
Just front either way or the other, and then you're challenging him as a central defender where you think you've got more chance of winning the ball than simply thinking, I'll stick my foot out needlessly and try and win this ball off this little whippet. It's just, for someone who's in their 30s, someone of massive experience, someone who's an England player.
Yeah.
It's so amateur what he goes and does there. And look, I think he sort of gets away with it considerably when people think he's our captain and stuff like that. I think that's the sort of thing that helps him out. I think in many ways, if somebody does that, I mean, if we were talking about that one was particularly Godfrey, we'd be screaming at him, someone would be running on the pitch to get him off. Needless to say, that nearly happened. Well, that pretty much did happen just several minutes later, didn't it? When he does the same, and it's that dangling your leg out. It infuriates me, that, Les. It infuriates me that you see not just the free kicks given away. Now, don't get
Yeah,
me wrong.
stupid
You
areas.
want to give free kicks away. Let's face it, intelligent free kicks. Let's talk about that. That happens. You've got a decent midfielder. He's happy to give away a free kick at times when they're bursting forward. If they're counter attacking on you, take the yellow card. Just eliminate what they're about to go and do.
Just don't do what John McGinn did and absolutely volley the player
Did
right
you
up
see
in
that?
the air.
I found that quite funny because I remember when we played Villa, saying he's a dirty little bastard, but he's adored, isn't he? He's adored for all sorts of
Yeah.
reasons by them and obviously Ireland, Scotland, and all that. But he goes and does that, and you think, yeah, I knew I was right about him. He's a dirty little shit. You know what I mean? But going back to what Godfrey did there, it's the naivety to doing that because they don't concede those penalties. It maybe sounds a little bit obvious, this, but I don't think, obviously, you'll get a lot more pressure from them having not scored 2 goals, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident they wouldn't go on and win that game. And that
Doesn't feel like it.
Well, exactly, and that would tell you all about like how we've defended. Mostly this season, we've been competent when we defended. So Brantwaite was fine again. Didn't see them really create anything else, and then unfortunately, you're the opposite end of the pitch, and we could have played until today, and we still wouldn't score the goal there, which is obviously Dyche's main issue there. But yeah, that's a kind of game you watch which epitomises us in 90 minutes because there is that naivety defensively to do that and just say, yeah, lads, go and score a goal there. And that's the game won because we're going to find it really, really hard to have a shot on target. And that's what ended up happening. It's hard to watch. We had a really hard watch like that.
It's been the same all season, hasn't it? So I think Matt again mentioned this. It's like early season, it was happening. You had the XG stats saying, well, we probably should have scored because we created this many decent chances. But when it's gone on now for months and months and months, and we're nearly 30 games into the season.
Yeah.
It's like something needed to change at some point. You can't just keep thinking, right, we'll just keep doing this. Remember with Martinez? He was driving us mad because he was doing the same thing every single week and not getting results. This is the same. Well, it's not the same because he was just like boring life out of everyone. We're passing it along the back. But this is the same in the fact that, like you said at the start, we're doing the same thing every week. We're playing the same players in the same positions every single week. We're making the same subs pretty much at the same time every single week. And it hasn't worked now for 6 months. It's worked for like a 4-game run in 6 months.
When somebody defends him, no less will say, well, what else has he got to do? Now, I take that to a point because I'm thinking, well, yeah, look at the options you've got there on that bench, but there comes a point where you've got to just throw some faith at a load of lads who you haven't seen yet. Or, more importantly, a load of lads who you've thrown into training throughout the week and thought, well, he might be all right. He's there for a reason. I don't care if he hasn't played a game or he's been like Dobbin's been a big part of conversation that I've had recently saying,
yeah,
give that lad a go. And people are saying, oh, I don't think he's good enough. Well, I'm sitting there saying, well, do you think Jack Harrison's good enough?
Yeah.
If we're still losing games, if we haven't won a Premier League game since the 16th of December, you consistently thinking that what you continue to do is going to work. It's absolutely not. Why is it taking any manager or Ian Wall, Steve Stone, whoever else is there? Why is it taking them, what are we up to, like, approaching like 4 months soon since we've won a game? Why is nobody screaming saying this lad needs to come in now? Just if he plays shit, fine, because the bar is lower. The bar couldn't be lower than where we need to try and find something that's a little bit better. Just simply change things.
And just thinking, if you flip it on its head, right? If you're scoring loads of goals, but you're conceding loads of goals, straight away you look at your defense and think, do I need to change the shape of this defense? Do I need to bring in a different defender? So like when Michael Keane got dragged off the team and Brantwaite came in, that was because he was causing us to concede a lot of goals. He changed it. Now, at the other end of the pitch, you've got to do the same if you're not scoring, because it's all very well not conceding, but the amount of pressure that not scoring puts on your defense each game, it's gonna crack, and especially against the better teams. So, if you've kept a clean sheet for 60 minutes and your strikers have wasted about 5 or 6 good chances, you're thinking these clowns are never scoring here. The opposition are thinking these are never scoring here. and it gives them a boost for the last 20. And you've seen, we're conceding late goals now, and it's all very worrying in the fact that he doesn't seem to be doing anything about it, but just keeps trying the same stuff. It's not going to work. It's not going to suddenly click, because it would have clicked by now.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Martinez there. That's exactly what he did, but obviously at a much higher level, because Everton were getting relegated at the time. But you watch him every week and you're like, how predictable is this? He's starting his 11 here. He's trying to pass it through the middle. He's trying to get the ball to Lukaku's feet rather than his head when he's 6'4" as well himself. That pissed us off so much. It makes you angry watching him. You go back, what is it now, 10 years nearly? You go back to when he... obviously, we give anything for that right now, given the situation. But that common thing, I've spoken about it a lot this season, that feeling of stubbornness that you get with any Everton manager just seems to be a trait that's there. It's almost like you sign a contract to have to do that, whatever manager ends up signing at the club. The other thing I wanted to get to as well is the results in and around us. Now, I found something really, really funny here, because when I'm when I'm met most of us, I guess, is predicting that we're going to lose or not win. United away is probably right up there. Bournemouth away and Newcastle away.
We don't do well there, do we?
No. If Everton get a point, if we got 2 points in there, I'll bite your hand off right now. Or don't lose both of those games is huge before we get another home match. But what is getting me is when I watch the bottom 5 sides. The 4 sides: Brentford, us, Forest, and who's the other one? Luton, sorry. I don't even look at Luton as being the team that's going anymore. It's really, really strange. I just don't, because I think like they just end up pulling off these results from out of nowhere, and we've still got to go there, which petrifies me. I keep on saying it. The ones I'm looking at now more so is Brentford, and I think Forest are the ones to finish above. Obviously, any of them we get through and stay in the league for another season at least, but. Every week, I think I watch Nottingham Forest as much as I watch Everton. And yesterday, seeing them away at Brighton, I was petrified for like the last hour. They were 1-0 up Brighton. I'm thinking these are going to equalise here. They're going to go get a winner. Never thought I'd celebrate Liverpool. We said to me last week, never thought I'd celebrate Liverpool scoring the last minute winner.
I know.
It's I'd love to say it's a strange feeling, but we've had to be relying upon other teams to win games rather than ourselves. With in mind what we've said there in the context of what I'm going to ask you, those 4 home or the 5 home games you got, but I think many of us would exclude Liverpool there. Just assume right now, I know people will fight for it and say, look, let's go and kick their ass and it's the red shine and all that. We'll all do that on the day of the game. Don't worry about that. You write that off for a second, you look at the 4 that we've got. The points total as well, obviously a question I'll start asking a lot of people, but those 4 you've got left there, they look like really tasty fixtures to anybody but us. And if I want Sean Dyche to stay on as Everton manager beyond this season, and I know this seems to be an idea people are coming out with anytime I put something out saying, do you think Dyche should be responsible for a lot of what's going on? First thing, knee-jerk reaction from many saying to me, you want him out, you want him to go, you want him, get a new manager in. I'd be like we did, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago, we were saying, I don't want him start, but I think he's shit. You know what I mean? That's what I'm at with him now. And then, that might be unfair to say to him, given what he's got to handle with. But that's every single person will have a different view on that with him. But I think if Everton can't get through to the amount of points they need in the Premier League because of those 4 home games, his future needs to be questioned, regardless of what this team is doing. Or would you flip that and say, well, look what he's got. If we don't win those games at home, that's purely down to who's put on the pitch?
Yeah, I think it's on him. Now, these next 4 games, there's absolutely no excuse to not win every single one of them. I think as fans, we've got a bit of a duty now as well to try and make those games, as good as possible atmosphere-wise. But for me, it always comes from what's going on the pitch. The team needs to set the tone, because getting yourself up for a game against Burnley, it's difficult to do. Even though it's a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, it's difficult to get up for that game, isn't it? It just
Yeah.
is. It's, you know, those games always are. Same with Brentford, same with Forest, same with Sheffield United. They're not games where we're all going to be going, buzzing, going, right, come on, can't wait for this. So that catalyst for me always needs to come from the team making a positive start and going for it. But, you know, they are four. Like, if you could pick 4 home games to keep you in the league, you would probably pick them, because 2 of them are already down.
Yeah.
One of them could literally be down by the time we play them, which is never a good thing, really, is it?
You know what, mate? Before you say that, I was absolutely shit myself, and Burnley were 2-0 up away at West Ham
Oh
yesterday.
God, yeah, same.
Moyes have got fucking sorted out.
But yeah, it's, you know, they are 4 like gimmies, aren't they? You know, it nothing's a gimme for Everton, but as I said, if you could pick 4 games, you'd pick them. So if we can't get the points we need to stay up, that's on the manager. We'll go down, and he's got to go in that case, because, you know, he's had the full season. You know, we've been like sort of riding all the fact that we're not in the bottom 3 now just shows how bad this division is,
Yeah.
because we should be well in the bottom 3, but it's crap, so we're not. You know, we could also have another points deduction if we win these games and then get another points deduction, which then takes us into the bottom 3. The conversation is different, because
Yeah.
he's done effectively enough
But do you not
outside of the
think?
points deduction to keep us up.
Do you not
But
think that
sorry,
the
just quickly,
motivation?
I suppose if you look at it another way, you've factored in the other points deduction as well. So it might be unfair to judge him on that. But as things stand, I think if we don't win those 4 games, and it results in us going down, it's on him. And, you know, he's paid big money to succeed in this job.
Yeah.
Even if success is the relative like success of keeping us up. And if you don't do that, well then, you know, your
Yeah.
job's at least got to be under question.
I have to, and again, something that I might be criticised heavily for here, but I'm getting a bit sick of people saying, well, you know, if we had those additional 6 points, we'd be on what, 31, we'd be above Crystal Palace, just behind Bournemouth in 13th, we'd already be safe.
Yeah.
That has been an excuse, a valid excuse, since November when we got given it, when we got sanctioned. That can't maintain as an excuse for near on 6 months. That cannot stay that way at all, Les.
Well, not when you're on a run like we're on.
No.
So even if we were on 31 points and we were on this run, you'd have to be questioning the manager to say, you know, are we going to carry this run into the next season? Remember, there's always a thing, isn't there, whereby I think it was Howard Kendall, like, he didn't always finish the season strong, but said it's always better to finish the season strong to take you into the next season.
Yeah.
Because although you've got the summer break in between and a lot of things change, you have got that momentum. If you're dropping like a stone at the end of a season, it's easier to carry that on in the next season, because you've ended the season, you know, with low confidence, bad results, and you can take that into the next one. It's hard to turn that around. So it's like, even if we had 31 points, you would have to be questioning the manager now, because this run is dreadful. It's appalling.
Yeah.
It's as bad as since 93, isn't it, or something? 94.
Well, yeah, and again, I got moaned at for saying you can't criticise Dyche as much as Frank Lampard when he's got a worse record than him now. He's only won 1 game in 15. Lampard was sacked for 1 game in 14. Look, I'm not trying to emphasise that this is bad as what happened under Lampard, but in literal terms, it is. You know, and look at people have changed. People change so quickly. I know football's a fickle sport for anybody who's a fan, but that squad isn't as different as it was over a year ago with Lampard, and I don't like comparing the two. But the fact is, he's done the same thing. Now, I'm not saying either that I think it'd be a disaster if we sacked him before we finish this season. 10 games left, you're not going to change a manager and have that. I don't believe you're at a stage of the season where you get that bounce. I think the only reason why people may say that is because we've got those 4 games against lesser opposition.
Yeah.
You get somebody in now, you're flying to Goodison, aren't you? You're saying, well, we'll take the piss here now. We've got somebody in who's competent. You add that into the mix, but then you start thinking, who could you possibly go and get that wants to come to Everton when you're nearly taking them down and you've got an appeal and sanctions to come and all that, you know, and you'd have to pay them.
The thing is, the thing is as well, who's in place to like employ them? Who's actually running the club? Who's you know, who is making those decisions?
Slick, I don't know. some fella who just turns up and gets a check for him, writes a check for himself. But yeah, just going back to those games coming up that we've got at home. Burnley and Sheffield United, like you say, will already be down. But the Everton way, many fans have been speaking to have said, you know what, that's no gimme. That is no gimme for
No,
Everton to win those easily. Many other times, and I think back to Bournemouth at last day of the season. Bournemouth feet up, on their holidays. How difficult that game felt like it was going to
yeah,
be. Josh King trying to teach Everton that he's going to want to slap every Evertonian he sees by sending us down for just not playing him at all when he was with us, and he was pure shite. He nearly goes and scores for us. That doesn't go simple for Everton. It just doesn't work that way. And the away ones I'm basically casting off. I just don't believe that we're going to go away from and win a game. If you get a point or two, like I said about Bournemouth and Newcastle, be absolutely delighted there.
I just on the aways, we need to go for it against Chelsea because they are crap.
Just go for any of those ways, lads.
Yeah, we need to be looking at that game as an away. As you said before, Bournemouth and Newcastle, I'd be surprised if we get anything there because we never do. Now we know we never get anything at Chelsea, but this is as good a chance as we're gonna get to get anything down at Chelsea. And Luton as well. I know you're saying you're terrified of going there, but they can't beat us 3 times in a season. I'm just not having that. I am not having Luton beating us 3 times in one season.
But Les, that's the best they want. That's the best place they want people to play. Them at home have been good, and I refuse people to say that they are pure shite. Away from home, you see some really, and the narrative that's been with them all season has been they're really good to watch. It's a laugh to watch them. It's not a laugh for us because they're in a relegation battle with us, and we've got to go there. I will put money on Ross Barkley having a part of this or scoring a goal against us because that's just the Everton way. Things happen like that. And he'd be buzzing if he did that. But Ross Barkley is that much of a bell end. I reckon he'd be delighted if he was the one that sent Everton down by scoring a Luton Town. But I feel like it's a hard way to get confident about the games we've got left, even though many clubs across the league would say, I'd love it if we had that run. You look at Arsenal, who've got to go and play City away in the top of the league and can win the league. They pay to have the fixtures we've got remaining.
Yeah.
But for us, the mentality just turns the other way, doesn't it? And I'm sitting back and thinking, Dyche, nice that we've got a bit of a break here until we go and play those 2 away games. I think there's a lot more pressure on his shoulder then thinking, I think right now we've got, what is 11 to be going away to Bournemouth right now. He's got a lot of time to think about this, but if it's anything like it is now, I would go as far as saying he probably deserves to be sacked. That's a sort of push toward the end here. That's a little bit further into the future here, Les, but it's a different sort of conversation I wanted to have. How does he keep his job? And I'm not just saying that for you to answer and say, if he keeps Everton up, you've got to keep him on. That's the basic answer that you would say about like Lampard and when we've done it before, they've got a duty then to keep them on.
Yeah.
You're going into a new stadium. You've hopefully financially got past all of the point deductions. So let's say Everton are on a clean slate going into next season. And we're going to the stadium, 18 months away from now? Well, it'll be ready in 9 months' time. Chance that we can go there probably won't happen, but chance we can go there next season. Do you put your faith on Sean Dyche to take Everton forward?
It depends how this season ends for me. And I don't just mean whether he keeps us up.
That assumption I want to give you then, he just keeps us up, regardless of in and around points, whatever. He just keeps us up. Do you carry on with him?
I'd be looking elsewhere. If he just keeps us up, I would be looking elsewhere because there's nothing then to suggest that he can do anything different with this club, this team. Now I think what he did last season to keep us up was nothing short of remarkable. Again, it hinges on teams being a bit worse than Everton, which thankfully they have been the last 2 seasons and might well be again this season. But yeah, I think it all hinges on how our form goes now going into this final third of the season, whether we do enough to sort of show that, okay, he can do something different with this team. He can turn the fortunes around, because if he can't do it with these games coming up, there's nothing to suggest that he can do it. Now, I know we've been hamstrung with selling our best players. I know we've been hamstrung by not really signing particularly good players to replace them. That's another conversation entirely. But he knew what he was getting into. And this is the squad that he's got. And you've got to work with it to turn results around. And if you don't, as a manager, it's on you. So I think if we hit a good run of form and we sort of pull ourselves clear, start aiming towards maybe 13th, 12th, where we should be without the points deduction, then okay, I'd say there's a conversation to be had to say, do you know what, stay on, see what we can do with getting new players in, play your system, do whatever. But if we just about scrape it, I think you've got to be looking about. And also to caveat that as well, it all depends if another good manager becomes available, because this is something that does my head in with this club. It's like they're not proactive enough to just go out and see if someone better is available. Doesn't matter where you are in the league. If another manager becomes available who's better, go for them. If you think you can get them, go for them. Like Liverpool did with Klopp. As soon as he became available, Rodgers got binned and they went for him. And that's how it should be. It's ruthless. But, these fellas are paid a lot of money to do that job. And if someone better comes along and you can get them, go for it. And that goes for even if we pull clear at the end of the season.
Yeah. I think sentiment has changed a hell of a lot with us. The sentiment that, he's becoming Evertonian. I wouldn't sack Martinez back in the day. People would say that because you've seen how much he celebrates when Everton scored. He's got blue blood in him and all that.
I couldn't wait to get rid of him.
Oh, exactly. All of that sort of thing. I actually think that the funny thing with Dyche is he doesn't have that attachment with our fans and our club anymore. I don't know if you've seen the press conference where he was talking about the little kids who went to World Book Day dressed as him.
Yeah.
And you're like, I think the club wanted to do something really nice about it, saying, he's amazing. And he just goes, yeah, I did see it, smiles and goes, it was good. And that was it. Do you know what I mean? Standard Everton families, fans, people who sit in the family enclosure, they're actually loving stuff like that. And I think that's sort of an interesting take, what people think of him and how he comes across as a person with us. But that summer, up or down. But you mentioned there clubs that in and about next season won't be anywhere near a bottom three as, in inverted commas, comfortable as most sides should find them. Because you've got Leicester coming back. You've possibly got Leeds coming back. And then you're looking at, maybe, I don't know, Coventry or who's the other side, Ipswich, someone like that. A bit of a wild card come up as well. It's beyond, and it's too early to talk about this, obviously, but it's beyond thinking about him staying on as manager, in my opinion. That's not a knee-jerk reaction and it's not because I don't like the style of football. It's because I don't think he's good enough to be a consistent Premier League manager. I think he's fine, or being fine for us, because that's what he did at Burnley. Coming to Everton and trying to do it, if he spoke honestly, is a whole different kettle of fish. Given that there look like there was a lot of harmony, given fans, given what the club was like, a small club, the small fish in the big ponds. That was the sort of attitude and feeling in and around Burnley. Come to Everton, it's completely different because our fans are all nuts and we're going off our heads either way. But then, he's come in, and I agree with you, that first season keeping us up was nothing short of a miracle what he did. But that goes back to what I said about you get that bounce when you come in as a manager. That first game against Arsenal, we all remember it. That's like, anyone writes a book going forward, like many Evertonians do brilliantly, that'll be a reference to when Everton was saved because this fella came in that season. But, again, other people, I'm trying to sit in the middle of the bench here, and I don't really want to, but other people would say, well, who else are we going to go and get? And that sort of thing that is often referred to. I just feel that if we had him at the start of next season with, by and large, the same squad, I don't think you see an Everton anywhere near staying in the Premier League. And that's the general feel I have towards that.
Yeah, I think he did get Burnley in Europe, didn't he? So I'm just looking, it was 2017-18, which, itself was a massive achievement. And they finished 5 points ahead of Everton. They finished 7th, Everton finished 8th, 2017-18.
And then say, when he got in Europe, he played like a team of under-21s and got knocked out straight away because he said
yeah, he did, didn't he?
Trying to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, which is it's just ridiculous, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
look at that. But you know, he'd been there at that point. He'd been at Burnley for 6 years, and that's where it peaked, and then it was kind of on the way down. Um, so you know, there is an argument there for he has come into a shit show. Any manager that walks into this club at the minute, or has done over the last 6, 7, 8 years, has just walked into an absolute mess.
But his CV is full of that. His
Yeah,
CV is based. That's why he's tailor made to come into a side like Everton.
but
If he does, mate, that's his Premier League career finished in terms of being a manager.
but yeah, but if I'm just saying, if you look at that, it took him 6 years to get Burnley into that sort of pinnacle, which we'd absolutely kill for now, by the way. There is a case for saying we'll stick with him, and eventually, you know, it will get better.
Yeah,
You know, if you look at it like sort of very objectively, so long as this team's making incremental gains every season, and this season was better than last season, then there's a case to keep the manager. And there is always a case, like it's the same with Moyes at West Ham, wasn't it? He had some shocking finishes, like lower mid-table finishes, bottom half finishes and stuff. And they sort of stuck with him, and it sort of paid dividends eventually, because you know they got into
yeah,
Europe, they won
yeah.
that trophy. You know, they're still in Europe now. They're in and around European spots in the league. There is something to be said for sticking with the manager for that sort of longevity, so they can actually do something with the club and with the team. But it's just whether he could do it, because as you know, his record has just got his win percentage up here overall for Burnley was 35%.
Mhm.
You know, it's 32% with Everton at the minute. It's very average, isn't it? And that, you know, that season to get into Europe was definitely an anomaly. So it's whether he can get to those heights again, or whether it just fizzles out like it did at Burnley. And I don't know. I think it all for me hinges on how this season finishes, really.
Mm. Yeah, and even if we stay up, I think that's still a
Yeah,
question. It's still a
yeah, yeah.
question. Um, Final thing, just before we finish now, we're on what 25 points, 10 games left for everybody apart from Luton. You've got 11. How many points keeps us up?
35, maybe less, maybe something like 33.
So that's what 3 wins and a draw, 4 wins maybe. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
that it's funny how you word things, isn't it? Because if you said to me, you've got Burnley, Sheffield United, who else? We've got Norwich, sorry, Forest and Brentford at home, and you've only got to win 3 of them, and you stay in the Premier League. Plus a couple of aways there that you can probably have a chance of getting a point from. It's easy. Why are
yeah,
we even worrying? Do you know what we should be in? We should be in the bar right now, feet up,
yeah.
thinking, yeah, Dyche, you stay on, mate. You're going to be sound next season. We'll stick there for you. That is not going to be the way for us.
Doesn't feel like it, because you've got to score to win games, haven't you?
No,
So it's like,
well, lest we forget, aside from Burnley and Sheffield United, you've got Forest and Brentford coming to us, who are in the exact same predicament in terms of trying to stay in this league. And just to finish, Les, as well, I did mention if we need to get to a certain, in my opinion, to feel safe, that's not just the amount of points we need to stay up. But I'm thinking that if these deductions come in, we
oh
need to
yeah,
be
true.
sufficient amount up before they take them away from us, and we're still up. If you get what I mean. So
Yeah.
I think you've got to think. Obviously, Liverpool are the other one as well, which I'm horrible to say it, but you sort of write it off, and I certainly am. To be fair,
Oh,
I know
so
that
they're just better than us, and all the players will be
yeah,
back by then as well. So it's
exactly,
like,
and it's that the scenario people are saying when we eventually end up playing them and things like that. That's just a wild card for us. There, you can flip a coin if you think Everton have got a decent chance of winning that game. Well, you flip a coin and 99% of it would be Liverpool on the side of the coin, but. I don't know. I mean, I feel after the United game, United defeat, an expected defeat, way in which we played had a lot of positivity, but that sort of feelings counted for nothing. I think Les, and I think often when by and large when you don't have football because of international breaks and whatnot, you start thinking, "Oh, this is shit." But I don't think I've been more delighted. Not in terms of the content we've got to put through, by the way, to everyone who listens to us, because post-match and all that, our bread and butter stuff, preparing for games, that's out the window for the next 3 weeks. So, yeah, all sorts of really different stuff and some fun stuff and some enjoyable stuff, definitely. But I'm so glad that we've got an international break, and so he needs to conjure something together.
Yeah.
In the next few weeks for us to come out and at least get something away at one off, if not both, ideally Bournemouth and Newcastle away, and then we're not sitting there all thinking, oh, I need to go and sit there and watch Norwich. Keep saying watch Nottingham Forest and Brentford. I need to watch them more than watching Everton games just to see how they get on.
It's just draining, isn't it? Yeah, I think this break has come at a good time for everyone, players and fans included. We can all have a break. They can go away and hopefully work on something different. They come back and get a point against Bournemouth. That's a good start. Come back and get 3. Suddenly we can start thinking, hang on, okay. And it so much really hinges on how we start that game.
Yeah,
I think for me,
it
and
really
how he
does.
approaches it.
I want that manager Bournemouth. I've got to start thinking he's a sack of shit. He'll get sacked after about 5 games into the season because he doesn't even know how to talk and stuff like that. They've ended up half decent with him. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
We've added that with Wolves as well, and so other Palace as well. Got a new gaffer in there, and they've started with a kickstart. But yeah, I mean, we've got to keep the faith in Sean Dyche, which is I don't know what your opinion will be on it. Everyone who's listening to us there, whether you're happy with that, whether you feel secured, whether you feel safe with Sean Dyche in charge or not, other players you've got or not. I'm sure that remains to be seen anyway. That may be a break for Everton, but it's certainly not for us. Bags of content coming as usual. Les is still coming through with amazing stuff with the old new Borrowed and Blue, which there's another one. Who have we got coming up this week, Les?
Peter
Mark is coming on. Yeah. He's done half of his as well. Completely different to everybody else's. Obviously, everybody else's is unique to the choices we've all made. But Peter's also doing the Everton women's team as well, with the same way Les does it for everybody else with the men's team over the years. So that's a really good listen. Mailbag as always, which is, I think, it's certainly kept many of us going all season long. And I think the many listeners, the amount of listeners we get from that, I think it's kept them going as well. Some of the chaos and I don't know, jokes that come in there are just like all over the place. There's some random stuff that goes on in there.
very, very random on the last one.
It gets deeper and deeper and deeper into like really ridiculousness that's just trying to keep us away from talking about football side of things. By all means, though, continue to ask us football questions if you want. For instance, the last one, we spent about an hour talking about the academy.
Yeah. It was a good chat on the academy, though.
It was, but apologies to everyone that it was in that show. Any other pod on that's absolutely fine. We were actually having a discussion and debate whether we should just take it out of there and leave the rest of the mailbag is actually having a laugh. But anyway, I'm rumbling on here. There'll still be plenty of content, loads of different bits and pieces coming your way. Stick with us, stick with the Blues when we finally get back playing at the end of the month. Thanks for listening to this, as always, and up the toffees. We'll speak to you soon.